Hello, good morning. Just coming up to 10 to 6 on Wednesday the 22nd of March. In about an hour I'm setting off from my home in Bath to ride yet another Roman road, and I'm also going to visit a few places of interest which I think there's some really good stories there worth sharing. It's been pretty wet and wild out there overnight, so I'm starting this video inside where there's no risk of wind noise, and also I can show you what I'm doing on my big Ordnance Survey map, fully spread out, so there's no risk of that being blown away. Here's my map spread out on the table, sheet 162 for Gloucester and Forest of Dean. So I'm riding from my hometown in Bath over the Severn Bridge, and I'm going to start the journey there at Chepstow. And I'm going to take the section from Chepstow up to Newnham on Severn there. And then afterwards, avoiding the busy A40, I'm going to cycle up here, come into Gloucester and get a train back to Yate. Ivan Margary, who catalogued and indexed all these roads back in the last century, is the seminal work. He believed there were possibly 2 river crossings of the River Wye here, so I'm going to try and investigate those. And then I'm going to take, in effect, as the A48 up here to Newnham. And he believed there was a Roman ferry crossing there of the river across to what's known as the Horseshoe Bend in the River Severn. And that road he designated as Margary 543. And it eventually went over to join the Fossway. He believed the purpose of that was to connect the Fossway with the iron mines in the Forest of Dean. There really are some fascinating stories to tell you here, actually, including an attempt at a tunnel over there, a shooting when it all went wrong, and also an entrepreneur who used bits of old Second World War runway to form a footbridge across. Just a couple of things as I approach the Severn Bridge and I cross over the River Severn and the River Wye into Chepstow. I mentioned recently that I dropped a microphone with one of the furry dog windsocks to muffle out the wind sound recently, which worked really well. I bought a new one, but the windsock doesn't seem to be working. I've noticed a lot of wind noise on the last couple of videos, so what I've done is I've ordered a new one, which I'm hoping is going to be better. In the meantime, I've used a foam indoor microphone muffle and also forced the outdoor external windsock over. Coming down the old road into Chepstow, as you enter the high street, look at that, you go through an arch. I know it's not a Roman arch, but it's a cool way to enter the town centre. Okay, I'm now in the grounds of the spectacular Chepstow Castle, and that's where I'm heading, across that bridge there. A quick refresh then about the road. The other week when I went over to Wales, I rode back from Colne-Winston, Thankful Village, and I rode back along part of Margary 60. It used to be a road that ran from Newnham, where I'm heading today, all the way down, pretty much tracing the A48 to what Margary believed was Carmarthen. But since then, on the ground evidence has suggested that road carried on for at least about another 14 miles, and aerial surveys have suggested it possibly went as far as St David's. So it sparked my interest. As I said, Margary believes the road came down pretty much following what the A48 does, and it drops down that hill steeply. I'm going to try and replicate that actually. There's a little cut through. He said he believed the ferry crossing across the Wye here was just slightly north of the bridge. And if you use my ruler method, that would sort of make sense, it'd be here. And if you look over there, if I lift the camera up a little bit, you can see even at what looks like a former old quay. So that could possibly be where the Roman Margary's 68 actually crossed here. I've come across the Severn Bridge here, and I'm now at Chepstow here, at the castle I've highlighted in green. And there's the bridge that I'm looking at. So the road crosses the river there, as I've just shown you, then it curls round, modern day, that's where the overtaken lane is. I'm going to try and cut straight across there as Romans would have done, and that's where Margary suggested you sort of think about it. Using my ruler method, I've actually drawn what looks like a straight line from the top of the hill down to the castle, and that would correspond with what Margary thought. Once I've crossed that bridge then and climbed up steeply through those woods, I'm pretty much going to be following the A48 along the banks of the River Severn, which is pretty much what the Roman road did. Another thing Margary says in his book, he says it is probable too that the road from Newnham through Severn to Beachley was also in use as a ferry. And again, I've used my ruler method, and I've drawn a straight line down through Severn. So possibly there was a crossing about there. Again, just using my straight line ruler method. So what I'm going to be doing shortly is going up across that bridge, cutting off that S-bend, and getting on Margary's 60A. It's not the A48 today, it's the 60A. Here's a downstream view of the Wye Bridge. You'll see those two ornamental lights in the middle, which is the border. I'm going to be crossing that shortly. And this is quite a cool shot. Look, my bike's there. I'm now at the top of those cliffs in effect. I'm up at the level of the modern A48. I kind of stacked the odds in my favour today. As I said, I flipped the route, so I've got a tailwind assist. This is possibly where Margary's 6A split, because it clearly says Severn and Beachley. That was what Margary was referring to down there. And then the original would have come down here and crossed the Castleford, as it does what it says on the tin, a ford at the castle. And then you can see A48 in brackets, so we're about to get on quite a busy road actually. Keeping my high vis on, even though it's very, very warm now, and I'll be putting all my lights on as well. I'm now on the A48, and as I was hoping it's not that busy, you can get some good views across the Severn. See the tall block buildings there of one of the power stations, Oldbury or Berkeley. Just seen a long goods train go along there, so there's a railway just down there. And then look at that one there. I'm quite high up, so I'm not quite sure where that went, whether it's still a railway. But yeah, that's all. I wasn't expecting that there, to be honest. Anyway, onwards. Remember me saying earlier on, I've stacked the odds in my favour by reversing the direction of travel. I think that's a pretty good example. I'm heading that way, luckily. I'm glad I'm not going that way. If I had gone that way, it'd have been like swimming into a strong current. It's not even 11:30 yet, but I saw this picnic sign posted just off to the left of Margary's 60, and I thought, oh, I'll hop in there. It's got all these picnic tables, shelter, there's toilets there if you need them, burger van there. Don't really want hot food, but I've got my sandwiches. I bought some chocolate and some coke, so I supported a small business. So all these lovely daffodils, look. And it's very hazy, but you're looking across that slither of the Severn estuary. As I was coming along that main road, I saw this lovely minor road going off. It's signposted Offers Dyke, and it's going up on those hills, you know, up into the forest. Doing it, all my instincts say just get off the main road and go up there. But you know, that's what I've come to explore Margary's 60A, and it's amazing once you give yourself a different sort of direction to travel in with a purpose. You start sort of seeing all these things differently. Actually, I'm really enjoying this. Even though it's a main road, it's actually not that busy, and the tailwind's just making it, well, it feels like it's my birthday. Nice weather and a tailwind. Shortly I'll be going through Lydney. Now again, my map is so out of date. The main road bypasses it now, so what used to be that red line I think is now a main road. And then I go over the map. But that's for later on. Next really big place is Lydney. top of another hill. That gives you an idea of what's on the other side, Forest of Dean. But this is a typical Roman road, just up and down, up and down, up and down. Even the wind behind me is quite challenging. I can show you a bit of what I think here. I think it's a natural assumption to make. The road would just come straight up there and cut across there. That would have been over there. And I was looking over there thinking, how on earth did people get up that? You can see the modern road is like snaking around here, and even this is hard enough. It's starting to take its toll. We're at Newnham on Severn. This is one of those names I always struggle to pronounce. I do so many outtakes. Just as you pass the boundaries, and there's one final sting in the tail right there. In the interests of keeping this route as straight as possible, I've got off and I'm going to walk up here. There's a churchyard here on the banks of the River Severn. You get some good views. Yeah, in the interests of Roman authenticity, I'm trying to keep this final climb as straight as possible. Plus the fact I'm starting to really tire rapidly. So I just pan the camera and you can sort of see what a beautiful location this is. Meantime, I want to check out this church. This looks lovely up here. Look at that. Wow. Oh my goodness, look at this. Sometimes it pays to be a bit lazy like I am. What a beautiful location. Look down there. This is a big meander on the River Severn, which they call the Horseshoe Bend. I'm going to try and tell you a few true stories actually that I've come across through various sources and various people. Hopefully bring that to life a little bit. Oh, look at that angel over that grave. Wow. Oh, what an amazing sea. Oh, I just can't resist that for a couple of minutes, just to sit and take this view in. How's that for a view? As I said last week, I was going to get the train from my local station in Oldfield Park, Bath, up to Gloucester, direct train, start there about 8 o'clock and ride down this way. And then, as I said, I couldn't do that because of the train strike. And then I thought, today's the only chance I can do it this week. I looked at the wind and I thought, oh no, I'll have to put it off yet again. And I suddenly thought, why not just do it in the opposite direction, get the train back to Oldfield Park? And then I thought, hang on a second, I can save myself a bit of money. It's under half price if I just get it 2 stops down to Yates. There's about 2 or 3 miles from Yates, a couple of miles on main road, but even that's got a cycle lane alongside most of it. It's perfectly safe to ride, and then you just turn off and head down to the Bath to Bristol bicycle track. It's coming up to 1:30, so I know the trains are every hour, and I think they're on the 40-minute mark, so that gives me a rough idea what I'm aiming for. So this big spit of land, if I show you that Google shot again with it, it's fascinating stories there. So Margary believed the Roman road from the Fossway, I think it's called 543, came up right to Arlingham, which is over there. I did a wild camp up there a few years ago, and he believed there was a Roman ferry crossing over here, the purpose being to get access to the iron mines in the Forest of Dean and transport it back to the Fossway. Also between Newnham on this side and Arlingham on that side, there used to be an old drover's road where you could walk across, an old causeway. Even then it was dangerous and it was very tidal. You had to do it at low tide and take extreme care. And in, I think it was 1802, there was a big storm which just washed it away and changed the course of the mud banks, and it just made it unnavigable again. Although I've read stories of people going across there, taking their life in their own hands. And one of my friends, Brian, who just replied to my post on Facebook this morning, sort of said one of his relatives used to be a postman, once walked across there. Brian saw him do it, so I know that's true. Now, the other story I'm going to tell you, I've got to pay credit to the source. I'd never heard of it before until one of Paul and Rebecca Whitewick's Sunday afternoon video. I've got to pay credit to Paul and Rebecca Whitewick for that, because they're the ones who told me, and many others probably, about the first attempt at a Severn tunnel across there. Back that way, one of the rises I went across was called Bullock Hill. And again, this is straight from Paul and Rebecca's video. Apparently there was an engineer in the early 1800s who had dug a tunnel through there. It was either for a canal or a tramway, and at the time it was the longest tunnel in the world. And these local business people wanted a crossing here, and so they employed him to engineer and design that, and they started to build it. And apparently it was over halfway complete when, in November 1812, there was a catastrophic breach, and the miners at the front of the digging operation just barely escaped with their lives. And believe it or not, that happened on Friday the 13th of November. Miraculously, they all got out alive, just nobody lost their lives. And there's more to that story. Sometime after that failure, which almost turned into a disaster, it flooded and it had to be abandoned, that tunnel. That contractor, Richard Tipping, opened his door one morning and was shot 5 times, and his wife was shot once. They both survived, but it was attempted murder, and that crime remains unsolved until this day. So you can make your own mind up whether there was any connection, whether there was money involved. And the other story, I came across this recently. Over there, right in front of us, Arlingham, there was a local entrepreneur who built a footbridge across here at river level. And what he used was leftover pieces of portable runway from the Second World War. Apparently the British had designed it to aid the Americans in a possible invasion of Japan. They would never use, so they would go and spare, I suppose. And he built it. I'll put a couple of pictures up now. By all accounts, even that wasn't strong enough for the job. I think some of it got washed away, but it wouldn't have got sanctioned anyway because it blocked any river navigation, so it just wasn't feasible. It probably wasn't legal either. So just sitting here and thinking about all these stories, really, the Roman crossing, the first Severn tunnel, this amazing guy who built that footbridge across here. Wow. And my friend Brian telling me this morning, people really did used to walk across there. And a couple of years ago, that road right in front of us where the inn is, I rode up there. That's the old Remy Road, and then I wheeled my bike along there, and somewhere on that curve, well away from people, I just did a wild camp, early spring. I remember it being a full moon, and this guy came along and said, "You do know there's a boar, don't you?" And I went, no, I didn't. I'd never seen one before. I'd missed it a few times close, but I'd never seen one. He sort of said, yeah, bit brave camping there. And I looked at all the waterline and I thought, oh, even if it comes, it clearly doesn't come up here. There's no silt. Well, believe me, it was really fast. 1 minute, this was virtually just mud banked, brown, dry. And within 15 or 20 minutes, I was sort of thinking, I think I'm going to have to move my tent. In fact, in the end, I just lifted it up and went back 50 yards. The speed at which it rose was absolutely amazing. Then I saw another one the next morning, actually. So by complete fluke, I saw my first 2 Severn boars. I'm going to walk down now. Maybe if the door's open at church, I'll pop my head and have a quick look. And then I'm going to walk down this picnic area. It looks like there's access. Look at that amazing view. Right, let's go and have a quick look inside. Gosh, even you're in a solid old building, you can hear the wind whistling through the roof. I won't always do this, get up here, but it just feels okay here today, actually. A lovely place. Clearly welcome visitors. Wow, look at the lovely pipes now organ. St. Peter's, Newnham. All the way along the road, I've been looking for any sort of indication or reference to this being a Roman road. And I'm not saying there aren't any, I just haven't seen any. On the Foss Road, there was loads of references, Foss Cottages, Old Foss Road, Foss Lane, Foss Manor, Co-op Fossway, there was a Fossway nursing home. You get the picture. You know, there were tons. And even on Margary's 45B, I'm guessing most people probably haven't heard of it, but there was, if you knew what to look for, there was quite a few references on that actually. But so far I've seen nothing today. I can just hear the wind blowing. I actually got a little bit cold at that picnic site, even though I was sat in the sun. When I sat down, the wind was actually making me quite cold. And of course, as soon as I got going, it's behind me, I warmed up again. I always try and pick up a guide. So I've got a guide to St. Peter's Church and a brief guide to the symbolism in the windows. Haven't got time to read it now, but go home and read it. Right, give them a couple of quid. Or I'll sign the visitors book. Wonder what time that is, 2 o'clock, 2:30? I found the little picnic area I was looking for. I found this little map here, more modern one. It tells you there, look, the ferry ancient crossing. Look out for the Severn Bore. But over here, my first reference to Roman heritage. This of course drew me over like a magnet. Roman Empire, several kings of England, shipbuilders, glassmakers, merchants, poets and novelists have all helped establish and shape the old town of Newnham. I'm trying to read this faded writing through a frosted glass. It says, following the Claudian invasion of AD 43, the newly arrived 20th Legion of the Roman Empire began its march westward towards the Welsh marches, and a point near here quite likely waded across the River Severn for the first time. Establishing the point as an early strategic location, they may have assured Newnham's own path through history, and one that would lead right up to the end of the 19th century. With an abundance of oak, ash and beech and wildlife such as deer, boar and wildfowl, it was no surprise that the Normans knew this area as the hunting ground for kings. Years ago I was reading in a tourist book about the Forest of Dean, and it was to do with the failed invasion of the Spanish Armada, and one of their first strategic points was the Forest of Dean because they wanted the oak for their ships. Major direction change, I'm leaving the A48, so I've been following that railway one side or the other of it since Chepstow actually. It's given me some ideas actually. I think I might ride over the bridge sometime and just do a bit of station hopping on that. Not sure where to yet, just have a look at a map and get some ideas. So the A48 is headed up and then it emerged with the A40 heading into Gloucester, and I want to avoid that. It's just like a motorway in orbit then. So now I'm actually turning on some quiet roads yet again under the railway. If you imagine Gloucester in its outskirts as a clock face, I think I'm going from about 7 PM round to about midnight and then coming in from the north, and then I'll get to the station. These lanes back to Gloucester are absolutely superb. Lovely and quiet. Cattle watermill there. It's 2.5 miles to go now and it's 3:20. My train is at 4:20. I just can't be bothered to rush. I just fancy sort of maybe getting a bar of chocolate, maybe even an ice cream. I know there's definitely rain coming in, so I'm sort of chasing that. But the ride down has been fantastic. Just as I've got on this busy main road into Gloucester, there's even a cycle path alongside. So I've got the river just over there actually. This can get flooded along here I think. So I'm just going to mooch into town. Just give myself an hour and 20 minutes to get 2.5 miles and get a train. When I get on the train at Gloucester, it's only 2 stops away. I'll pass through Carmarthen, then get off at Yates. Straight outside the station, you get on the ring road and it goes along towards the bicycle track, and 2 miles I suppose on main road, and even that's got a cycle path on the left of it, and then you turn off and then it's just through residential area, another few miles, and then you get on the bike track. I joined this off-road path, so I had the A417 on one side, the River Severn on the other. Now I'm just crossing underneath the A40. This was a really busy road. I wanted to avoid coming into Gloucester. You could just hear the roar of traffic above me. So this will take me safely across this junction, which is dodgy at the best of times actually. A few times on some of my DIY old axes when I've been going up to Upton 17 in the winter, I can't use this river path because it just floods, and you literally, even the road just a few yards to the right is only just passable. You know, I said it often floods down here in the winter, but it's still flooded in the spring. I just had to ride through that. Just about got through. It's quite reassuring. I saw a cyclist come the other way, so he must have ridden through that. There we are, Gloucester railway station, about 10 to 4. I'm going to get the 20 to 5 train. I should be down at Yate around about 5, something like that. I'll talk to... I've just got off the train at Yate. Just gone 10 past 5 and it's raining, so I've just had to put my Mac on. Literally that's the main road I'm going to take for about 2 miles. Then bear off to the left, eventually get on the cycle track. I'll finish the video off. I'll talk to you at Bitton. Well, the rain's got quite heavy, so I'm just sheltering underneath this bridge, about a mile and a half from the end of the bicycle track. So I think I'll finish the video off here. On Sunday, I'm riding a 110km old axe from Long Ashley in Bristol. So to get there and back will be about 15-16 miles each way, so it'll be over 100 miles. I won't film on Sunday for one reason. The older I get, the harder it is to get around old axes within the time limits. That's why I just want to enjoy it and talk to people and that sort of thing. And the other thing is, not everybody likes doing films, so I tend not to film calendar events. Trip I've got planned, which I'll definitely film. I referred to it when I got the train back from Filton a few videos back. I'm going to get an early morning train to Worcester, head over to the borders, and then ride down and visit 2 central villages, and then spend the night in a camping trip. So that'll be soon after Easter, hopefully. I may film a video before then, I'm not sure, but in the meantime, look out for each other, everybody. Take care, see you soon.